Hi, this is Brent. Welcome to Theoretically Practical, and today's weekly one-shot is all about abrasives, specifically hand tool abrasives. So getting right into it, we'll start in the middle here with the stuff that would work for die grinders, either straight or right angle or whatnot. They all typically have 1/4-inch shank. So this is one thing you're going to want to have is a Roloc holder, or I always call them Roloc. I think that's the 3M trade name for it. They might call it Quick Twist. Whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. They all seem to be cross-compatible. This is a Harbor Freight holder, which obviously doesn't say Roloc on it because they'd be sued. This is a 3M Roloc bristle disc, and they go right together. The beauty of it is just the quick swap. You can go back and forth between a bunch of different abrasives without spending a whole lot of time taking your tool apart, loosening, tightening things. They're great to have, especially if you have a 1/4-inch angle grinder. They come in, this is I think the 1-inch size, they come in 2-inch and 3-inch as well. Some of your air tools may not support the larger sizes. Look at the air tool, it'll be pretty obvious pretty quick what they can and can't do. For that, you should get the sanding discs. I prefer the Norton Blaze, and I like to have usually like a 60 and a 120 grit lying around. That seems to cover the range pretty well. And then I also like to have these. They look like Velcro, but it's an abrasive fabric. It's called scotchbrite. They're great for polishing stuff up. It won't put a fine polish on it, but it will remove a lot of the deep gouges from the sanding disc. And then finally, something you may not have seen before is a 3M Roloc bristle disc. This is all these little fingers on it, and they're very flexible. What this is great for is removing old gaskets from surfaces or cleaning things up that you don't want to actually remove material from. This is some sort of abrasive in like a rubber, basically, as far as I know. I picked these up for working on the Defender because I was rebuilding the transmission, and they put these weird little lines on all the gasketing surfaces that make it impossible to scrape them off. This is what Subaru and GM, I believe, recommend you use to clean off head surfaces. So I've tried to dig a hole in a piece of aluminum with it. It doesn't work. Well, it works exactly as intended, and it doesn't dig a hole in it. But it will remove gasket material really fast. So the final tool you might use with your 1/4-inch die grinder or angle grinder or whatnot is a Carbide Burr. And I highly recommend these. They get into a lot of really tight spaces, they last forever, and they remove a lot of material quickly if you have good tools. So this is a carbide end brazed to a steel shank. That's what you want. The company that makes them is Ep.04, the ones that I typically buy. This is a 3/4 by 1/2 inch round tool, so it's 3/4 inch long, 1/2 inch diameter, round nose on the end. You don't want a super aggressive pattern for cutting in steel. This is really a good one for it, and hopefully this is somewhat in focus and you can see. So these are really great. I buy mine on eBay rather than buying them firsthand, I guess you'd call it. I buy them new old stock from machine shops typically because they're 15 bucks on eBay and they're like $35 or $45 anywhere else. So you do the math. Now, it may seem like a lot of these are expensive, and that's something I want to touch on. There is nothing more expensive in your shop than cheap abrasives. Granted, if your time is utterly valueless, maybe there could be an argument for buying cheap abrasives. But if your time is worth anything to you at all, buy good abrasives. They pay for themselves in the amount of time you don't spend fiddling around, taking off and swapping worn out discs, and the amount of frustration you don't have as the person using these. I've worked in a lot of shops. Some of them had really cheap abrasives, and you just throw them. You use 10 cheap ones before you use one good one, and the good one is only twice the cost. I mean, the math does itself on that one. Speaking of spending a little more to get a lot more, when it comes to cutoff wheels, this is the old style. It's like a carborundum, right? So what you should do with all these in your shop is just, that was supposed to be easier, and just chuck them. They're pretty dangerous, I think. I've had them explode. Everybody who's used one has seen one explode. Once you use any amount of them, they become too small to get at anything. And now, Lenox and a bunch of other people make one that it's a piece of steel with diamond embedded on the rim. Now they claim it lasts 15 or 30 million times longer than the carborundum ones, and I think that's not true. But they do last much, much longer than your regular cutoff stuff, and they aren't gonna shatter and go in your face and take out your eye, which would be worth it right there. I think these are like 15 bucks a piece, whereas the carborundum discs from a good manufacturer are $3 a piece. So in my mind, if this lasts more than 5 times as long, and it definitely does, this is the cheapest option, even though it seems more expensive. Now, the other thing everyone should have is a bunch of wire wheels. This is just a cup wheel. I prefer the twisted, they call it knotted type, because they're less likely to throw filaments of wire at you. Why that worries me is that I have a friend who was working with an angle grinder and one of these wire wheels, and he was out working one day, finished what he was doing, went home inside. He felt a weird pain in his wrist, and he was wearing gloves, but he was wearing a t-shirt because it was hot out. And you know, really couldn't see anything, but his wrist started swelling and it was really uncomfortable. Ended up going to the doctor, getting a scan, and basically what had happened is one of these filaments right here, I don't know if you can see it because it's so fine, came out and stabbed him in the wrist. So literally went inside of his wrist. And I'm sure that if he could have avoided it, he absolutely would have. And I urge you to avoid it as well. So what does avoiding it mean? It means buy pretty decent quality wire wheels. Don't buy the cheapest ones you can buy. Check your RPM. This says 12,500 RPM, so it's for angle grinders, which are about a 10,000 RPM tool. Don't spin it at 20,000 RPM. Like, it's pretty simple. And if you get one where it's really old and beat up and a lot of the things are hanging out of it, just chuck it, get a new one. I know that I'm saying spend money like money is free, and I know that it's not, but a lot of this stuff, you're penny smart and pound foolish, really. And so that's my suggestion there. Speaking of angle grinders, when it comes to hard disks, I have switched to 3M Cubitron 2s. They are a ceramic with like these little triangular shaped ceramic abrasives in them. These things eat metal. When I first got these, I went right through a weld and right into the parent material because these things eat metal fast. Don't push hard with them or any other abrasives. You want to be gentle. You want to let the abrasive do the work. That's the biggest thing that new people do, is they take it and they're like, really forcing it in. And all you're doing is you're overheating the abrasive. You're breaking off a lot of your cutting teeth, right? These little ceramic cutting teeth. You're just breaking them off. And you're probably loading the abrasive up with something that's gonna keep it from cutting, so it'll be filled in the interim. And abrasives will cut better if you allow them to cut and stay clean. It makes a huge difference. But these particular ones I really like. I get them on Amazon, and but in order to buy them on Amazon, you have to promise that you're using them in industrial locations. So you do the old, yep, I'm doing it for an industrial reason, I promise. And then they'll send them to you. And then they'll send you emails for like the next year about how you should really sign up for an industrial account. But Amazon, I'm not going to, and I use these in my shop, and they're friggin' great. Get over it. Flap wheels. Everybody's seen flap wheels. I don't like flap wheels. I don't know. Maybe I'm using them wrong. They just seem to kind of get to a point where you can see that there's good material down in there, but it's not up at the top, and I don't know, maybe they're supposed to wear down in a way. Maybe I'm using them wrong. I don't know. I don't like flap wheels. What I prefer instead is flat sanding discs. This one's a Diablo brand, but Norton's really good. Doesn't matter. This is 36 grit, which is a pretty good grit for these. Removes a lot of material. And to use one of these though, you need a backer like this, and then it has a nut like this. So you got your backer, you put that on your angle grinder, you're good to go. These are great. When you're using them though, when you're trying to clean off a weld, don't put it up like this and kind of like really angle it, right? Because then you're making this scallop pattern down your piece of material. You want to really lay it down nice and flat and bring it across. And again, light pressure, the abrasives will do the work. So these are kind of like my core of abrasives I use in the shop. I'm very happy with all of them except these and the carborundum discs. They're all really proven and tested solutions, which is why I'm sharing them with you guys in case you're trying to set up your first shop by yourself and kind of avoid some of the expenditure and hardship or heartache that applied to me. So that's about all we have for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, have a great day.